Okay, whenever you're ready.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning. My name is Brian Eden, part of the sports group, giving a persuasive speech on why collective bargaining is poor, a poor form of bargaining, of labor resolutions in sports. So, as far as dispute resolution, I took the minor at John Jay for alternative dispute resolution. It's a topic that interests me a great deal. I'm going to be attending law school in the fall, and I plan on focusing on ADR because I feel most forms of arguments are being resolved in the form of ADR, which is alternative dispute resolution, moving away from litigation. I tackled it with sports, or attached it with sports because I love sports, and I paid very close attention to the 2011 labor disputes in the NFL and the NBA as a result of my love for sports and my interest in the field of ADR. So as I mentioned in my informative speech, collective bargaining is a negotiation practice, that is used to reach an agreement between two parties that set the parameters for the workforce, whether it's salary, whether it's terms of agreement. It's the practices that you can have as an employee, set by the employee and the employer. An in-depth example of collective bargaining in sports is the 2011 NBA lockout. Here, as reported by Forbes.com, this is the trajectory of income for franchises. This is the highest grossing franchise over a 10-year span or a 12-year span, the New York Knicks, and the lowest, the Milwaukee Bucks, in millions of dollars, and the league average is in red. So the big market teams were growing at a much larger rate than the league average and an even higher rate than the lower income teams. And the owners needed some unity. The owners wanted to unify the practice of revenue sharing and revenue spending so that the teams with more money couldn't go out and spend a lot of money, the teams with less money were able to compete. It was an interest for the league because they needed to have some form of competition. The players in this dispute really didn't have much to say because in the 1999 labor dispute, they negotiated great terms for themselves, and they had high-paying contracts, guaranteed contracts, and so they didn't really have a bone to pick. So the owners were coming to the table with most of the fight. As a result, the players, this is one of the greatest losses for the players, were their contract, their salary terms. So you see, after 1 year, year one of the new collective bargaining agreement, the salaries were capped at a lower rate than they were lowest rate they have ever been before. Players with 0 to 6 years of service can only make $14 million per year, 7 to 9 years of service, $16 million, and 10 plus years, $19 million. Now, as the terms of the agreement progress in year 3, year 6, players are able to make more money. However, the average length of a career is only 5.5 years, and so players wouldn't even reach the full term of service for their contract before they got to year 6 of this labor agreement where they can make the most amount of money. So players came out to be the biggest losers. They didn't have much of a voice, and they ultimately fired their player representative because they lost so much in this process. The owners gained because they were able to agree to revenue sharing. They were able to agree to where a certain amount of money that the larger markets make were able to go back into the lower markets, pump up their franchises, and now they could compete. They can make the league more competitive, which increases money for the league, the owners, ultimately the players as well, but not as much as the league and the owners. Now, because the players already had such a strong strong agreement that they ended up losing, I felt that this process isn't the best process because one party is usually coming with nothing, the other party is coming with everything, and one side has all the leverage, the other side doesn't. Alternatives to negotiation or collective bargaining could be arbitration. Arbitration is a process, it's a dispute resolution process where sort of like litigation. You come to court with your arguments, both sides present their arguments, and a neutral arbitrator, either appointed by both sides or appointed by a court, decides on an award for the complaining party. That award is binding, so there is no appeal process. It's whatever the arbitrator says is final. That works well in baseball. Baseball had their last work stoppage about 15 years ago, and they haven't had a problem since, because certain salaries after a certain amount of service, a certain term of service, you're able to go into arbitration. And once the salary is arbitrated, there's no say. So sometimes owners will preempt that process by making a fair offer, or players can say, no, I'm going to wait for arbitration because I know what I'm worth. It works better in baseball because it's very stats-based game, so you can set parameters for the arbitration, you can kind of know where you fit in. It also works because that's one of the main points of contention in baseball. They already have revenue sharing, so the owners are okay. The players have arbitration, so there is already that sort of that unity. It wouldn't work as well.
Attention. This is Fire Safety Director Ryan Houston from the Department of Public Safety. This is a fire drill. Please evacuate using the nearest exit. I repeat, this is a fire drill.
How much more do you have, Ryan?
Not much.
All right, if we could just give it 30 more seconds. All right.
This is Fire Safety Director Ryan Houston from the Department of Public Safety.
Is there a real fire?
This is a fire drill.
It's a drill.
Please evacuate.
But we have to leave. I just want Brian to finish up so he has a chance to finish.
This is a fire drill. Please evacuate using the nearest exit. Thank you.
Okay. All right.